And here's where the root of harm reduction is: accepting every person where they're at. One, these are universal principles.
I don't think you understand how much that gives to us as a patient to say, he's given me a chance. He believes that I can do this.
Hey, Nicole, how are you? Let's get started. We started earlier and we weren't recording, so we're kind of reshooting some of this stuff, which is cool, whatever. Maybe we can get the point across better. How are you? It's good to see you. I haven't been on for a while, and this is a great way to get back in. I've missed you, and we can shoot together.
I missed you too, Dr. B, and I'm so excited to come on and hear your thoughts about my question that I want to bring to you today.
Okay.
So, recently, I had a live stream where we were talking about, I had a young lady come on and share her story. And we've had a lot of people reaching out to us on social media. A lot of us over on TikTok have been, sharing our stories and stuff. And people message us in the DMs. And a lot of the people that I've been coming in contact with, they share with me that they're not ready to get sober at that time. And so what I wanted to ask you is this: what are some things that we can share with people, like harm reduction practices or suggestions that we can share with people to help them if they're not quite ready to get sober? But how do we know that how do we know if they're not ready to get sober, or if it's just that they feel like they are not ready to get sober, or they don't think that they can get sober? So I wanted to come on and ask you this question and see what you thought about it and hear your thoughts.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think the way we discussed it earlier, to add to that, was she was being sort of forced to go into some sort of recovery. And she just said, look, I'm just not ready. And that's a no deal for everyone else. And the way you posed it was, what are some harm reduction avenues and maybe pointers that we can give to folks? Is that about some
That's
of that?
correct.
Okay. And
Yes.
here are my thoughts. Couple of things. Number one, I'm a big harm reduction advocate. I've had needle exchange clinic. I was a physician. It was a physician-driven one. And to me, as I've dealt with harm reduction workers and advocates, the term harm reduction, as it is becoming more prevalent in the vernacular of the culture of this kind of thing, I'm watching the same kind of thing happen as has happened with the concept of trauma. Everyone says trauma. Everyone says harm reduction. They have,
Yeah.
yeah, and
I've noticed that too. Like, if there's an uptick in the amount of people sharing about harm reduction now on TikTok, there's people sharing about, like, I've seen several different people who are being able to work with changing policies in the states that they live in. And me coming from somebody, I was brainwashed to believe that abstinence was the only way to get sober for many, many years. For over 10 years, I tried to put myself into this abstinence only box, and I kept failing, and I couldn't understand why was I failing at this, but other people were succeeding. And then, in 2015, I got sober, and my husband suggested that I try MAT treatment. And ever since the day I tried MAT treatment, I have not had a relapse in 8 years. And so when I came onto the scene, started sharing my story, coming from an abstinence only background, but being a person on MAT treatment, I didn't fit in. I was judged because I was on Suboxone, and I started trying to advocate for those of us that are on Suboxone, that are taking our medication as prescribed, and help other people feel empowered that they decided to take their life back, get on medication assisted treatment, and are changing their life for a positive way. And in that process, I have encountered people in the harm reduction community who have come against me or are disappointed in me because of language that I use when I share my own stories, like calling myself a crackhead or saying that I was a junkie. And they started correcting me. And that opened my eyes to see that maybe there's some things that I need to learn about harm reduction. So over the last 3 years, just being on TikTok from 2020 to 2023, I've been trying to learn more about harm reduction so that way I can better help people in all aspects of addiction recovery. If they're choosing to stay on drugs, if they want to get sober, once they get sober, and all in between there. And so that's why I wanted to come to you and talk to you about harm reduction, because I know how deep into harm reduction you are and how passionate you are about it from coming out to California and working that week that I was down there to work with your Harm Reduction Institute. So I want to learn from you more so I can do better when I'm trying to help others. And that's where the conversation come up and the questions have come up with people telling me, I can't do it this abstinence only way. And I'm not going to go to that treatment center, or I'm not going to go to those meetings. And that's that. And I wanted to know what we could do to help people that are in that situation.
Yeah. And as much as I'm an advocate of trauma as a mechanism to understand substance abuse and treat substance abuse, uh, I will say this: these things become buzzwords, and there's a lot of new, and people become kind of regimented and Nazi attitude towards them. And they just use these terms without really understanding what it completely means. By the way, harm reduction will fail if your social context is not infused and applying the same approach towards society. That's a different issue. But in this particular case, I'm going to give an example of a gal and change the question from what harm reduction tools can I give the person, and change the question to in what way is the person not ready to quit drugs? And so I just recently had a gal come in with her family, a young gal, heavy history of a lot of mental disorders, in addition to alcohol, cocaine, benzodiazepines, recent introduction into opiates, pressed pharmaceuticals, and she's just a disaster waiting to happen. And her thoughts were, I'm not ready to quit. So I said, this is the question. When someone says I'm not ready to quit in that context where they're sitting with me, I want to know, in what way are you saying that? Number one, they're certainly attempting to make a connection, and here's why. They're attempting at honesty. Whatever happened,
Yeah.
there was a report here that she decided to come clean, and she felt comfortable enough to do that. And so that itself tells you, well, why are you here then, right? I'm not ready to quit, but yeah, I'm here. And that's a lot. You have to take that and run with it for the long run. Now she's told you something, and now it becomes my job to clarify what she's trying to say and where it's coming from. Remember, your question was reduced appropriately to what harm reduction methods can I give someone who's not ready to quit? And I've come back and said, what does that even mean? And so I turn to her and say, I would turn to this person and say, are you intellectually not wanting to quit? You've made in your understanding, a rational decision that I'm going to continue to use because it's good for me more than it's bad for me. Or are you trying to tell me, rationally, I would love to quit. I know I'm not there emotionally at this time. What does that mean emotionally at this time? We discussed it a little bit earlier, and you said, well, some people say, man, Nicole, I just can't get out of bed in the morning without doing meth. I got to go to work. Hey, Nicole, you know what? I need this to do my presentations. Hey, Nicole, I need this, and this. And my response to that is, in addition to those seemingly utilitarian needs to continue to use, there's also an affective need. For example, the person might be in a place in their addiction, as bad as it is, life and the environment supports their stability. They're not homeless yet, they don't need food, and even if they are, they have a certain degree of euphoria, joy, and functionality that they receive that is such a rush, they're not ready to let go. So
Yeah.
those functional needs go way beyond what me and you can measure. And you know that from your own history, right? It just gives you a feeling of well being. Let's take all of that. And then there's that small group, which I discussed earlier, that will even turn around and say, I'm cool. You're an idiot, Dr. B. I've been using for 25 years and I use a little bit of meth every day. And my response is too, maybe. I don't know except what you're telling me online. And that's an avatar. That's not a human being. That's an avatar.
Right.
Two, for those few that is the case, it is a few that can get away with that. Keith Richards in the 1990s in a Rolling Stone article, I remember him talking about his lifelong 30 years heroin addiction. And in some context, he reported in that article, as best as I can recall, hey, dude, I got all the money in the world and I live in a castle. I get the best dope and I get the best rig to use. I'm not going to get any diseases. I go in my bathroom, use it in the privacy of my own home, and I can sustain my addiction. That one report by a famous celebrity who was a lifelong user tells us so much about what addiction is. And if you're in a society where it's illegal, where it's criminalized, where it's taboo, where the addiction is not supported, people get into big trouble. And that
Right.
itself is what kills people, not versus, necessarily the addiction. Having said all that, right, from a clinical point of view, where I am, the way my practice works is it's a medical practice. I'm not trying to get you into detox. I'm not trying to get you into rehab. I'm not trying to charge an insurance company or charge you or your family 30 grand. So I don't have to sit there and say, no, 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 you got to come in right now or you're going to die and just turn you off from all of this, right? I want to recruit you for the long term, right?
Right.
So I can turn around and say that to you. Okay, now you've gained some understanding. And here's where the root of harm reduction is accepting every person where they're at. One, these are universal principles. Two, understanding that every individual sentient being is an autonomous, free willed human being that has a choice to make their own decisions. And I, as the clinician, and in theory, our collective society should accept, advocate, support, and lead someone to recovery. We don't have that, but in that small space of our clinical practice, we can do that. And so I accept you. So let's talk about what we need to do here to keep you safe. Let's talk about what we can nip in the butt. And again, I'll use an example. Okay. Well, I asked her, I knew that this person's using Crest benzodiazepines. That's dangerous,
Yeah.
right?
Dangerous.
Okay. I also know that she has a significant benzodiazepine addiction. Now, it's always hard to pinpoint in milligrams, but I suspect that she's using about 8 to 10 milligrams of total. If I was going to, I had to make some calculations and some guesses, but I decided between what she's stealing from family and between what she's buying off the street of press pills and what she had, it would probably be 8 to 10 milligrams of Xanax. I told her, if you're not ready, I understand, but what can we work on to keep you alive until you're ready? Let's be serious and honest. You are in a very dangerous place in your life, and things can get out of hand. You got the cocaine, you got the alcohol, you got the benzodiazepines. Now you're starting to take oxys from this person and that person. And by the way, one of the mental health issues she had a solid ADHD for years, and she was getting Vyvanse prescription from a doctor, and she described over a long interview that Vyvanse kept her at bay a little bit with the cocaine and the impulsive behavior, etc. And that makes complete sense. So
Yeah.
I made a decision right there. I said, I'll tell you what, I can't control what you do, and I respect what you do. How about me and you come into an agreement about something? I got to get some records from the other doctors, but for now, I'm going to give you 2 weeks of Vyvanse at that dose, which wasn't a crazy dose. It was a very reasonable, realistic dose.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you 2 weeks of that. In addition, I can't get you started on a long-term taper of benzodiazepines yet. But how about, because you're going to go out there, I don't know what you're using, but how about this? This keeps me safe and it gives her something to hold on to. I'm going to give you 2 weeks, low dose, daily. I think it was Clonopin, I decided. And what I want you to do, of course, I want you to try not to use any benzos, But how about you and I negotiate? You don't buy press pills because that could kill you in a second.
Yeah.
We can't, that this is harm reduction in practice. We came to a conclusion, understanding, respect for her choices, her decisions, but at the same time, there's a difference with validating insanity and accepting where you're at the same time, giving you a dose of the truth. And I said, this is not sustainable for you, my dear. This is where we're at. And it's going to be a long time for us to start pulling everything in, getting all the mental health diagnosis in a positive way, getting medications adjusted. And in fact, in her case, I'm like, nobody should have diagnosed you with anything. You haven't stopped using since you were
Right.
15, right? It's insane.
Yeah.
Let's leave all that crap aside and let's work on keeping you alive without things getting more out of hand. In addition, do me a favor, chill out on the opiates. I'm going to give you the Vyvanse. See if you can back off the cocaine for the next couple of weeks. Please, again, what can I do? Try and measure the alcohol you're taking in. And so hopefully in that visit, I didn't give her dangerous medication, but the medication I gave her was limited and controlled with an understanding, look, this is what I'm going to go out and do. Hey, let's cut out the deadliest portions of what you're doing, get you back in here in 2 weeks, and let's continue our discussion. And
Right.
and
And then what happens is she trusts you because you're giving her a chance. Okay. This is one of the main issues I've had with providers in my own experience in the past is seeking the help and them automatically saying, I've had 8 years sober. My doctor said to me literally last year, well, because you have a past history of addiction, Nicole, I don't want to give you XYZ to treat this mental health disorder. And I'm looking at him with my eyes just bugging out of my head going, I've been sober for almost 8 years, doc, and I'm struggling. Thank God I was able to pull it together. And now I'm not on any of those mental health meds. And all I take is my Suboxone. And I have had to work really hard on healing on the inside. But one of the main issues is when we go to the doctor to seek help, they don't want to work with us. They don't want to hear what we have to say. They want to automatically shut you down and say, drug addict, addiction, sorry, no medications, nothing. Go out the door. And by you doing that and giving her the opportunity to work with her, having her come back on the weekly or 2 weekly basis. So that way you can put eyes on her, know that she's safe, know that she's not hurting herself or overtaking her medication. I don't think you understand how much that gives to us as a patient to say, he's given me a chance. He believes that I can do this, and that makes the person almost want to do better and make those changes,
I, I'm,
you
I'm,
know?
yeah, this is nuance. I know what I'm doing. I understand uh, the dynamics of the addict, their interaction with healthcare providers, society, family, the challenges they face, and it's constantly. And so I want to give a chance for, and again, now I use the chronic care disease model. I want to give a chance. You're a young lady. If this goes, I don't know if you'll be around in 1 year or 10 years. B, if you're around, that's not a life worth living. Let's start working on that crap little by little, chunk by chunk now. I don't know if I'll be successful. I mean, we've had amazing success in our practice
Yeah.
with all these folks, but there is no other way right now. There is no magic pill. There is no magic solution. And so that is my harm reduction response. And at some point I made a short video on TikTok. What's the best thing you can do for an addict that's in active use and doesn't want to get well? And my response was something to the effect of don't validate their reality, don't enable their behavior, be there ready to catch them when they fall, and give enough support where they can stay alive without killing themselves. And I think that's what you asked. And
Yeah.
that's my answer.
And that's what I have been trying to do as just a regular person in the recovery community.
Everybody can do it. It's not just
Is
me.
give support, give support, let them know that they have a phone number they can text. They have a phone number they can call and chit chat with me, and let them know that I'm there when they're ready to make positive changes. I can help them with whatever they need to help with, resources, online support. Like we have so much online recovery support that I feel like nobody has to struggle all by themselves. You know what I mean? Like there's a lot of recovery support online. I mean, look at, because you were over on Kicking Addictions channel just the other night. I mean, Kicking Addictions going live like 3 times a week now, doing his lives on YouTube. I do my lives on YouTube. Then we got lives going on TikTok, Facebook, everywhere. And so there's not like a lack of support out there. I just think that a lot of people don't understand because they are like I used to be, the all or nothing mentality. I used to think, oh my gosh, if you're using drugs, that I have to distance myself from. I have to go away. Now I'm not like that. It's like, no, I want to support you. Am I going to have you in my safe space where my son lives? No, this isn't like, hey, everybody come on in. It's a drug addict haven where everybody can shoot up. No, that's not what I'm talking about. But I can be their friend. I can be their support system. I can help them, and we can go out to meetings together if we wanted to go to meetings. I can give them a ride to the grocery store to get groceries if they're hungry. These are like the questions that come up a lot with like family members. Oh, is it okay if I buy my loved one something to eat? Is it okay if I give my daughter, let her come inside and take a shower? And there's some people online, Dr. B, who tell them, no, don't feed your loved one. Don't allow them to take a shower. Let them rot out in there in the sun, homeless on the streets. And that is the mentality that I used to have coming from the abstinence-based 12-step recovery community, because that's what I was taught. Oh, it's enabling. Oh, it's enabling, but that's not enabling. Giving someone love, food, water, shelter for a night, even if it's just like letting them sleep outside in your car. I don't know. But protect yourself, of course. But these are the questions that get asked to me by loved ones. Like, is it enabling if I'm feeding my loved one? Is it enabling if I allow my loved one, food or drink or water? And it's not. It's not enabling.
You brought another term in that again, trauma enabling, harm reduction. We're an extremely short-sighted collective, and we oversimplify complex issues. And by complex, I don't mean it needs to be a quantum mechanical equation to respond to the answer. What I mean is reality is nuanced, life is nuanced. And one of the problems with these things, and one of them you just brought up, enabling. No, one, living is an art. Medicine is an art. Being a human is an art, and the art comes with the science. And for those that really understand these things, they start to see that these things all should blend in. That's what reality is. That's what clinical medicine is. And what you do, and don't undervalue or estimate the kind of work you or other workers may do out there. Fine, I'm a clinician, but it all matters and it all should plug in together. And it's a vast, dynamic network.
Yeah.
And if we can get each individual to do their part, all of it important, do their part the right way, we as a collective may get somewhere in the future.
I agree. And that's what I'm trying to do is plug in and do my part and help protect people from getting hurt more than they're already, hurt in active addiction. And so I just love coming on here and talking with you, because I feel like every time we get on here and talk, we talk about things that are so important. And I can sit here and talk to you forever, especially, how to help people and how to help loved ones help their loved ones, because that's just like such a big topic right now, is this whole like, is enabling really a thing? Is it? I mean, I suppose you could enable somebody to an extent in a negative way, maybe by like giving them money to buy drugs, but feeding your loved one, I don't think that's just ridiculous. And I had my mom, listen, I have to tell you, my mom came and made a video on my TikTok the other day, and I asked her, Mom, is feeding your loved one enabling? And I want to share with you what my mom said. My mom said, Nicole, when some at our house, used to live out in the country, and we used to have these little dogs that would come up from the barn, okay? Because we had this huge stable that we lived in front of a huge racetrack, thoroughbred racetrack. And my mom would always make sure that these little dogs were fed and watered because they were strays and they didn't have anybody to take care of them. And she used that concept as, if I'm willing to feed a stray dog, that's coming to my door, you damn straight I'm going to feed my daughter a meal, especially when she's hurting and vulnerable. And it made me so emotional because she's right. It's like some people don't even have that kind of compassion for their own kid, but have that compassion for a pet, for a stray dog that's not even theirs. And so I always love asking my mom questions because she always puts it into in a way that I can understand it better. And I feel like people online, like laymen, regular people like me and her and parents out there, can understand it too. Like, if you can have that much compassion for an animal, then surely you could have compassion for another human being.
Absolutely. And enabling is another topic we can do shortly,
Yeah.
Nicole. And I agree with everything you say. It's been amazing that we did this, and we can do a few more things very
Okay.
soon. I think we should close it off here. Hopefully, we get these up on both our channels. Guys out there, we appreciate subscriptions. We appreciate likes. We appreciate the Patreons. The goal is to really kind of grow the channel and so forth. But Nicole, let's do a few more of these, and hopefully this month I get a lot more stuff, a lot more output. And
I'm down. I'm
I
down for whatever you want to do.
I hope the message resonates, gives people some tools, and gives them some answers and functional utility in their road to recovery or the recovery of their loved ones.
Agreed. Thank you guys for watching. And I love all y'all. And I just want everybody to know that if you need anything, you know how to get a hold of me. And if you need to get a hold of Dr. B, just send a message to getdrb@gmail.com and I will message you right back